What's going on, girls and guys, and welcome back to another video with me, Ben Rogajan, aka the Seattle Data Guy. Today, I want to focus on 7 VS shortcuts that make you a more effective programmer, or at the very least can make you feel that much more superior to all of your programming friends because you know all of these nifty little tips and tricks. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time with an intro today. We're just going to dive straight into these 7 VS shortcuts for effective programmers. But if you do really enjoy this video at the end, please do like, subscribe, and if you want, share on your favorite social media platform. So thanks so much, and let's dive right into it. Now, if you're new to VS Code, here's your general layout. What you'll notice is I am SSH'd into an EC2 instance, which isn't one of the shortcuts I'll include, but if you haven't already, you should definitely consider downloading the remote SSH extension because it really will make your life a lot easier when it comes to working with all the VMs you'll likely be working with when it comes to whatever job you're taking on. Now, the very first shortcut we're going to go into is pretty simple, but very important if you're having to deal with a code base that's very large, which is having a shortcut that quickly drops down the finder for all of the files that you're looking for, which is simply Command P. Or Control P if you're on Windows, and that will list files that you've either one, recently opened, or two, are kind of in your code base, and then from there you can start searching in your code base. This is more important, again, if you've got a larger code base. You can see here I don't really have anything here, but for example, if I start typing in here, for example, mbfr, you'll see it comes down to the only file that's got a similar name. So if you've got tons and tons of files, hundreds of files, and you know the name, but you're not sure where it exists, this will help you rapidly find it, simply by hitting Command P or Control P if you're on Windows again. I'm on a Mac, so Command P it is. And again, very quick, very easy solution to just trying to find a file name. But now let's jump into this file. Now, let's say you're going through and programming some sort of complex function that has tons of variables. So let's say def XYZ, and it has some variable, named var1. And you go through and you do some things, I don't know, for I in var1, then, add in var1, then say print, whatever, print I, whatever, something that has maybe more references to this var1. We'll just continue just referencing var1 one more time, just so you see what we're going to do here. But let's say at the end of this, you decide, hey, you know what? I do not want to name it var1. I want to name it something completely different. Well, here's what we can do to avoid having to change it multiple times. Obviously, you can use find and replace, but here's something else you can do as well. You can, first of all, select it, hit Command-Shift-L, and now you'll notice that all of these versions are highlighted, so I can now instantly replace them all while only replacing one of those values. So this makes it very easy to do things like, again, some form of replace all, rather than, again, having to do Apple F, find it, and then replace. This is just one faster way of doing that. And I personally find it a very nifty trick. Again, that is just Command-Shift-L. You'll notice it's highlighted again. If you're on Windows, it's going to be Control-Shift-L, but still the same thing, and it will produce the same result. And so that's how you add a cursor to all matching selections. Next, a much more simplified version of what we just did. Instead of Command-Shift-L, let's just do Command-L if we want to do something like select a line. So Command-L is a fast way to do that. Again, some people don't like clicking as much, so they like trying to figure out ways they can avoid as many clicks as possible and do keystrokes. So Command-L is one way to do that. And if you want to take it to the next level, you might hit Command-L to highlight the line and then Shift-Command down, and that will highlight everything below it. But that one I'm going to count into one example. So this is only 3 examples that we're at, and we still have 4 more to go. So again, this last one was Command-L to highlight a line, followed by Shift Command down to highlight everything below it. And so that's another quick tip that you can use in order to quickly just start going through and avoiding clicking your mouse as much, right? Like I think some people don't like having to drag down. And if you've ever tried to drag down your mouse through a large code base, it takes a long time. So this is just a faster way of doing that exact same thing. Now, let's say we have a file. In this case, I'll just make a new file that has a ton of rows. Now, currently, we're just at the bottom of this entire file. And again, if you remember what we learned earlier, you can hit Shift Command up and you'll go all the way to the top. But this only works to get you up and down very quickly. Now, what happens when I have a specific row because maybe there's an error somewhere, or maybe I just know that there's a row I want to get to? How do I quickly get from point A to point B without having to scroll down manually and waste a ton of time, right? Like manually, my fingers get tired. I'm very lazy. So instead, what you can hit is Control G. And what that will open is this drop-down menu that you can then say which line you want to go to. And you can see it's even helpful and tells you how many lines there are. So let's say I want to go to line 10,001. And now here we are at 10,001. I didn't have to scroll down. It was very efficient, arguably much faster, especially once you start talking about hundreds of thousands of lines, which I hope your code bases aren't in one file, but if they are, this is gonna be way faster, especially if you have an error at a specific line. Here's how you get to it very quickly, which again, just to count that again, is Control G. So again, let's do it again, Control G. And now we can say, again, 109 or something, or 1009, and here we are at line 1009 without having to spend a ton of time again scrolling to that line exactly. So that is a fast way to get to point A to point B without again using Shift Command up or Shift Command down, where it only takes you to the top or the bottom. It's personally one of my favorite hacks up to, I think, the last hack I'll give you. But when it comes to VS Code, this is great. Okay, so for this fifth example, let's just say you want to move a section downwards. In this case, let's say a specific line. All you got to do is hit Option down, and that's all you need to do. If you're on Windows, you can just hit Alt down. It'll do the same thing. And if you want to move it back up, the opposite, right? Option up. And it moves the entire line without you having to copy and paste it. You can just quickly move it down, and it just saves you that many strokes. Also, let's say you want to just move these 2 lines down. You can just hit Option down, and it'll move those exact 2 lines down. So whatever's highlighted or just the exact line that you're on is what will move. So let's move it back up. And that's just, again, another really quick hack in terms of how to move a line up and down. Now, for the sixth example, which is really just a quick hack and coming right before my favorite hack, all you got to do here is, hey, let's say you want to look up the search bar, Command B. That's about as quick as it becomes. It will kind of select whichever one you've picked last. So for example, if I've done search and hit Command B, it's just going to pick whatever one's there. If you're looking for one of these specific kind of modules, you can figure out exactly what the shortcut is. But in general, I'm usually on search anyways. So I just hit Command B and it comes up. And then if you have some code, or specifically not the file name, but the actual code inside, for example, if I look up var2, it's going to find var2 where it exists. So that's all this does. And then Command B moves it away again. So it's not in your way and you're not having to go over here and move your mouse really far just to get rid of the bar. Now let's dive into my favorite VS shortcut, which is automatically using a formatter, which is great if you're working at a large company that has specific standards that you can then just set into some sort of formatting library or formatting extension. So for example, I'm about to use a SQL formatting extension called SQL Beautify. So basically, it's just going to automatically apply some standards that are already set up with this extension. But if you're at a larger company, there might be certain rules or formatting guidelines that they have, and they might have linters that automatically go off when you don't follow it exactly. And then you commit some code and you're constantly having to just fix these nits that have nothing to do with your ability to code and just everything to your ability to follow some specific standards. So instead, why not just make this automatic? So for example, here we have the SQL, things aren't uppercased. It's not exactly looking great. And then hit Shift Option F again, and you'll see it's formatted once again. Now, of course, this is just one example of SQL formatting. There are plenty of other libraries you can find in the extension option here. So for example, you have SQL Formatter, SQL Beautify, Prettier, and a few other extensions that you can test out. Figure out which one you like best. Honestly, the big one I've always used is PoorSQL. I think that's what most of us have used, online. So this was kind of great to have already installed because I used to just go to PoorSQL.com and drop my SQL in there. So that is something nifty that I found. Hopefully these VS shortcuts were helpful to you. If you enjoyed them, then please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends so they can also take advantage of all of these great VS shortcuts. And with that, guys, I'm gonna say thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time, and goodbye.